Viewers, as you know, Rahul Gandhi has formally assumed the responsibility of Leader of Opposition of the Lok Sabha. It is his first constitutional post. And Rahul Gandhi is following in a hoary tradition of the big Gandhi names ascending constitutional posts without a shred of experience to their name. Much like his mother Sonia Gandhi, Rahul Gandhi has sworn in to stake claim to the post, which among many other things entitles him to state the opposition's case in the House. It's a massive responsibility. The operative word essentially is entitled. Rahul's greatest qualification, some claim, especially his opponents, is his surname that has allowed him to leapfrog over other more experienced and perhaps accomplished claimants. Now, as LOP or Leader of the Opposition, he will be in the enviable position of deciding on some of the most consequential aspects of how our nation is run. Viewers, he will be the chairman of the Public Accounts Committee. He can scrutinize CAG reports, can order probes into CAG findings. NDA MPs form majority of the panel. Therefore, there is the possibility of conflict. He will be part of collegiums to pick the chief of the CBI, Lokpal, CVC, CEC, election commissioners and the CIC. Very important, viewers, these positions are, as you know. Rahul can take over if government resigns or is defeated on the floor of the House. He will have a decisive say on the smooth functioning of the House. The LOP post puts Rahul at the head of putative opposition-led coalitions. A key role he will have in the allotment of seats and rooms in the House. As pointed out already, apart from the lack of experience, Rahul also has a checkered record as a committed parliamentarian. Rahul's attendance average is 51%. Viewers, the national average is 79%, and I'm just talking about the last Lok Sabha. The number of debates, Rahul's average around 8. National average is at 47. Number of questions, Rahul's average is 99. National average is almost twice that number, 210. Private members' bills, Rahul's average 0. National average 1.5. Viewers, there are several other parameters that we can look at. But I don't want to hog this conversation. I want to open this up. And with us, the senior Congress leader, Salman Khurshid, former member of the Union Cabinet of the UPA, and also with us, Amit Malviya, in charge of the communications cell, the IT cell of the Bharatiya Janata Party. So two experienced gentlemen here to debate with us this evening. Let me first begin with Mr. Khurshid. Mr. Khurshid, are the question marks over Rahul Gandhi's suitability justified, according to you?
I think really it's a futile thing to say what has been said, some of which you've sort of flagged, and a futile thing to reply. The man has shown his merit. He has done what nobody has ever done. Even Mr. Chandrasekhar had not, in his yatra, done anything like what Mr. Rahul Gandhi has done. He has proved his point. He's campaigned hard. He's brought the party to where we are so that we can actually elect a leader of opposition for Lok Sabha. Now, let us see what happens in times to come. History will judge all of us, and history will judge him too. But to sit there and carp about, he doesn't have this, he doesn't have that, is a futile exercise. The world now knows what Mr. Rahul Gandhi stands for, and they do know that he is a man of his word. They know that he is prepared to go the extra mile. He's done it. Now let's leave it to him to perform as the leader of opposition.
But the questions, yes, are being raised by opponents, but they were first raised by members of the Congress party, if you remember, Mr. Khurshid, about his suitability. The G23, a corpus of leaders, expressed their, let me just say politely, their reservations about the fact that Rahul's surname or the Gandhi surname still held sway of the party, which was perhaps preventing it from growing. Let's not forget that, yes, Rahul Gandhi has doubled the numbers, but the Congress hasn't come back into power. I suppose that really is the end purpose, isn't it?
Well, I mean, you can always cavil about, you should have got 300, you've got only 100, etc. But that's democracy. That's democracy. And you're quoting people, or you're relying on people who have vanished without a trace. Vanished without a trace. Some of them have fallen in line to say that, look, we are essentially loyal to the party and we believe in the party ethos and the party ideology, and they're back in the party. Others have just disappeared completely. Now, why are we spending time on somebody like that? Rahul Gandhi has proved himself. Rahul Gandhi is the man of the moment, despite the fact that Mr. Modi has become Prime Minister again, but Mr. Modi hasn't become Prime Minister of the party in majority. He belongs to the single largest party, and then he's relying on his allies to be the Prime Minister.
Okay.
So be it.
Okay.
I can't go on criticizing him for being a Prime Minister without support, etc. He's Prime Minister. Let that be. He's leader of opposition. Let that be. Now let's see how we perform in Parliament.
Okay. Well, let me bring in Mr. Malviya. Is it an incidental question? Is it a waste of time?
Well, of course it isn't, and the country must debate on Rahul Gandhi as the leader of opposition. First of all, the Prime Minister is a third-term Prime Minister. He has won 2 mandates on his own, and the NDA has a simple majority in the House for the 3rd time. Compare it to Rahul Gandhi, since Mr. Khurshid spoke about his achievements, and I was trying very hard to locate some of them. What has he achieved for his party? Before 2014, the Congress had never gone below 100-seat mark. After 2014, it hasn't even touched the 100-seat mark. If his yatra was so significant as the Congress leader just spoke, why has the Congress party not been able to win even a single seat in large states like Madhya Pradesh, in Andhra Pradesh, in Odisha, in Delhi, and several other states where they've drawn a blank? Lastly, the vote percentage that the Congress has seen increase in this election is a mere 1.7%. After doing all of this that the Congress would like to credit Rahul Gandhi for, there's not much to show in terms of achievement. And in the states where they've done well, it is largely because of the allies. The Uttar Pradesh and Tamil Nadu are case in point, where the DMK and the Samajwadi Party have actually powered the Congress's performance. Even in Maharashtra, where they seem to have got a decent number of seats, it's nowhere close to their performance in earlier years. So I'm not quite sure if Rahul Gandhi can be credited with whatever the Congress believes he should be credited with. The fact is that he's failed for the 3rd time in a row to dislodge Prime Minister Modi. Mr. Modi is the incumbent Prime Minister, and Rahul Gandhi, by now being catapulted to the position of leader of opposition in the Westminster system, may think of himself as the Prime Minister in waiting, but it could be a very, very long wait for him there. The other important aspects that you would ascribe to somebody occupying this important post is the ability to build consensus, is to take the opposition parties along. Let's look at the events of the last 2 days. There was no consensus amongst the Indie bloc on whether they should have a contest for the Speaker's post. Rahul Gandhi has essentially started his first day as leader of opposition on a losing note. Similarly, there was no consensus on whether there should be a voice vote or the opposition should ask for division. Now, these decisions should have been taken by the leader of opposition in consultation with senior leaders of other parties, but that was not the case. So much so that the opposition parties did not even know that Mother Sonia Gandhi has appointed son Rahul Gandhi as the leader of opposition. Now, let's accept that the Congress is a family-run party. Everyone else is basically running around the Gandhi family.
Right.
And frankly, in not just politics, but in any other sphere, if you had somebody who had failed as many times as Rahul Gandhi has failed, do you think he would really get a shot at the top job like he
Okay.
has got, at least
let's-
as far as the opposition is concerned? The answer is no.
Okay, let's confine ourselves to the first aspect of this. Pawan Verma also joins this panel. There's just the three of us speaking here. Mr. Pawan Verma needs no introduction. Former member of parliament with the JDU, then left to uphold, in his own words, the principles of secular democracy. So I'm just asking you, you are a person who understands politics, a student of politics. Now, the LOP in the Westminster model is picked through a rigorous intra-party process which is predicated on the principle of elimination. I don't see Rahul Gandhi having gone through such a rigorous inquiry of his abilities, Mr. Verma, and we are talking about an individual who could potentially be seen as the leader of the opposition, the shadow prime minister of this country.
Thank you, Rahul. I think you're right, but that would apply equally to the BJP. This rigorous process of selection, I don't believe was followed, nor could it be followed under the overweening personality cult that Mr. Modi has assiduously built for himself. And as far as the Congress is concerned, it is no secret that it is dominated by a family, and even the president of the party, Mr. Kharge, an otherwise competent politician, has to defer to the family. But here is the important question. This particular session of Parliament is a challenge not only for Mr. Rahul Gandhi, because this is the first time he's accepted a position of responsibility apart from a brief tenure as the president of the party. He has never been a minister when he could have been and shown his capabilities. Right now, he holds no post in the Congress organization. He could have been the leader of the opposition, but for some inexplicable reason, he had Mr. Adhir Ranjan Chaudhary there. So this is the first time he has accepted a leadership position, and he must prove his mettle. Leader of the opposition has to do a lot of work in interrogating the government. Apart from rhetoric, there is a great deal of preparation and substance, and also felicity in the language, where both in English and Hindi, he can express himself in a manner that is compelling. So I think Mr. Rahul Gandhi is on test. But what is on test also is Prime Minister Modi. He has no experience of running a coalition government. He has been the supreme leader, unquestioned, in his tenure for over a decade in Gujarat, and now as Prime Minister for another decade. He has never had a situation where he needs to consult or build a consensus, leave alone within his own party, but now with the opposition, which is in much greater strength. So Mr. Modi is equally, Prime Minister Modi is equally on test. Does he have, by temperament and instinct, the making of a consensus leader? And can he, therefore, now in a weakened position, run a government which can finally focus on what the people want, which is good governance? People are tired of the acrimony between the BJP and the Congress and a stalled parliament.
Well, I mean, that is,
So therefore,
unfortunately, whether we like it or not, acrimony between the treasury benches and the opposition benches has been a standard of Indian politics, because that's really the essence of democracy. We can't expect everyone to sort of become part of one consensus, overarching consensus, because that also means that you close ranks.
But there is also
That's
the
worrying.
demands of good governance.
But yes, that is true. We're, of course, you're coming from a position in the opposition, so obviously you're going to be overarchingly critical of every decision perhaps that the government has taken. and disregard perhaps the good stuff that the
I
government
am
has
not
done.
coming from anywhere.
Okay, you're
I
not coming from
criticize
it.
the
Let me just
Congress and
talk
BJP.
about this consensus issue. You know, at one level, Mr. Khurshid and Mr. Malviya, at one level, we credit the Prime Minister for being an exceptional political gymnast. We have always said that Mr. Modi is perhaps the most fallacious politician, and yet we think that he will not be able to balance the different contradictions that coalition politics demands. BJP has been part of several coalition experiments at the state level, and in a party that does respond to Mr. Modi singularly, it is to be assumed that a lot of decisions at the state level in these coalitions would have passed his desk and would have been signed off by him. So, Mr. Khurshid, are we over, at some level or the other, emphasizing this whole business that Mr. Modi is a tyro when it comes to sort of the give and take of politics?
Well, I don't know why are we going into this at all. Mr. Modi is what Mr. Modi is. We all know what he is. What Mr. Modi will be in the circumstances in which he finds himself now will become apparent. So why should we sit here and speculate, and why should we
then let me
assume,
ask
and why
you,
should
Mr.
we
Khurshid,
imagine?
on the question of
Let's
consensus.
just wait and see what he can do.
Fair enough. On the question of consensus.
Now, as far as
Yeah, just one second. Rahul
Yeah, I
Gandhi
know.
has
As
been
far as
nurtured in a
consensus is
system.
concerned.
No, Rahul Gandhi has been nurtured in a system, sir, if I may, that doesn't really question him. That is where the sense of entitlement comes from, according to some people, according to his bitterest critics, some of whom were in the Congress party, maybe today silent. But a person who is used to having his way, can he actually perform when someone actually says, no, you can't have your way on this or that?
Well, listen, I understand. I should answer that. I think you should really talk to Mr. Gandhi. What we know of what he has put up with is perhaps not known to the world. Congress party needed transformation in many forms, in many ways, and he was bent upon that transformation, and he had to struggle for it. Despite whatever you think he might be, he had to struggle for that transformation. He may well have thought that he is not being able to do it as quickly and as fast as he wants to. He is very ambitious about a changed party and a transformed party. But I think if anybody wants to study his ability to reach out, and ability to persuade, and ability to use whatever charm or whatever charisma he has to ensure that we move in a particular direction, they need to study the time that he has spent as a leader in more ways than one. Please get into a little deeper detail if you're interested in predicting what Mr. Rahul Gandhi will be able to do. We know and we are comfortable with what we believe him to be.
I take your suggestion. Let me bring in Mr. Malviya. Mr. Malviya, we've come around to the question now of who is better suited temperamentally to build consensus, which is at the heart really of ensuring that Parliament delivers for all of us. Otherwise, we go back to the 2009 Parliament where paralysis really took hold and nothing really moved legislatively. At least that's the claim. Mr. Malviya, is it Mr. Modi? Can he do it? Can he work with Rahul Gandhi?
Look, Rahul, your namesake Rahul Gandhi is a Nepo kid. You know, he's the child of nepotism. He has inherited the business of politics from his family. And therefore, I'm not quite sure if he even understands what is consensus. And I'm not going to make these rhetorical statements. I'll substantiate it. Just look at the way the Indie bloc coalition was managed. You had leaders like Nitish Kumar walking out of the alliance because they felt that they were not treated well. Even Mamata Banerjee at some point in time had distanced herself from the alliance. You look at the events of the last 2 days, and I spoke about it in my opening comment. Clearly, Rahul Gandhi has failed to even take them on board, let alone bringing a consensus. Now, let's come to Prime Minister Modi. We are talking about a man who's been in a public office for almost 2 decades and counting. First as Chief Minister and then as Prime Minister for 2 terms. He's somebody who was questioned on his foreign policy when he was the Chief Minister of Gujarat and running for the Prime Minister's office. And we have all seen how in the last 10 years he's come to redefine India's foreign policy. Now, if you do not understand the politics of Prime Minister Modi, the kind of pragmatism that he brings to the table, and his long organizational experience in which he has managed several coalition partners across various states he's managed, then I'm sure we are deluding ourselves. And let's stop this comparison between Prime Minister Modi and Rahul Gandhi. There is no comparison. Prime Minister Modi is a self-made man. He's risen from the ranks to the top office of this country, has won successive mandates both in the state and at the center on his own steam and credibility. Rahul Gandhi, on the other hand, despite having inherited a powerful legacy, is struggling to keep his party afloat. Okay. Now, it is clearly the Congress's prerogative if they want to hang out with a man who's sinking them, but it can't be India's priority too. Okay. And we have to make that distinction. And the last 2 days will bear me out that Mr. Modi has held the NDA flock together and Rahul Gandhi has failed.
Okay, interesting times ahead, viewers. Interesting times ahead. We will have to see how these 2 gentlemen get on with the job of forging consensus and making Parliament work. This is an important point of inflection, viewers, in our democratic history. I move on to the next debate. Thank you, gentlemen, for joining us and sharing your perspectives. Let's move on, viewers, to Tamil Nadu. The hypocrisy of it all is galling. As you move the lens away from the center, it becomes clear that India bloc's avowed commitment to upholding constitutionalism is at best an elaborate con. In Tamil Nadu, where the India bloc reigns supreme, the government there just suspended a whole batch of opposition legislators from the state assembly. Why? Because they dared to question the state government about the alleged inadequacy of its response in dispensing justice to the families of 61 people. Viewers, 61 people who have been, quite frankly, murdered by criminal negligence on part of the administration. Indeed, the death toll in Tamil Nadu in the spurious liquor case has ballooned, viewers, to 61. I'm underlining this figure because it is expected to go higher, and it constitutes one of the most devastating tragedies in the last 24 months. Yet, viewers, is this issue being raised at the center? No, viewers, not by the opposition. Has the Congress questioned its own ally? No, viewers, it hasn't. What has the DMK government done apart from instituting unfortunately, one has to say this because no one else is, a facile inquiry really by a retired judge? We know how those end up. The opposition will point you in the direction of several of those inquiries that have been held by the government against them to say it amounts to nothing. Viewers, the CBCID, the police, is going to now go into what many people believe is actually the culpability of the police in this case. Clearly, justice is not assured. The act of muzzling the opposition flies, therefore, in the face of the India bloc's trenchant criticism of Modi, who they accuse of being a dictator. And viewers, you have the facts as they are unfurling in the state around this story on your screen. And I'm not going to get into a DMK versus AIDMK debate here, viewers. I'm only going to bring in a member of the public to give us his impression of what we are seeing, this hypocrisy and the inaction. Dr. Anand Ranganathan, over to you. I have introduced this particular topic. I would like you to give us a perspective.
No, clearly, Rahul, good evening. Look, to paraphrase George Orwell, all governments are equal, but some are more equal than others, as far as the media is concerned. We've seen this time and again, that the exact same thing that the media accuses Modi of doing, when any of the state governments and its leaders do, there is complete pin drop silence. Just to narrate 3 instances of the state that we are talking about, Tamil Nadu, you had the Congress saying that it will come hard on terrorism, while at the same time it kept completely mum when no one less than the chief minister, Mr. Stalin, felicitated the killer of Rajiv Gandhi. There was pin drop silence. Rahul Gandhi looked the other way. This is the kind of rule setup that they have. When Congress talks about complete corruption in the anonymous electoral bond scheme, it is not only silent on its own garnishing or garnering 1,600 crores from the same electoral bonds, it is completely silent when the DMK also does it. And when the DMK sends its police to arrest a person erstwhile, a kind of cushioning or being, what can I say, friendly to the DMK regime, just because he, quote unquote, conducted a controversial interview, a YouTuber was arrested, was brought to Tamil Nadu via train, then it is not trampling of democracy. When the Supreme Court denies bail to the Coimbatore bombers where 53 innocents were killed, and the DMK releases those bombers, and not just releasing, telling that, look, let nobody say that we are against the Muslim community in doing so. Look at the thought process that goes in. Congress and everybody else, including the media, is completely silent. So let's not go down that road of hypocrisy. Let's just, I don't know what to say. We have to grin and bear it. We're living in an age where people are so biased and one-sided that they are going to cushion each and every crime of the DMK government, including this. When the same Congress was demanding a sitting High Court judge, when the same Gujarat Hooch tragedy happened, and right now they are absolutely all right with a retired judge giving a report that will lie and gather dust on some atop Godrej, Almira, in some godforsaken corridor of a government house.
Only till the next tragedy, of course. Undeclared emergency is the word that the Congress has been using to define the Modi years, the last 10 years, and what they believe are going to unfold now for the next 5. Now, I want to ask you, Dr. Ranganathan, since you brought it up, why is there this selectivity in the media? Many people are also beginning to ask this question from civil society, just like yourself.
I think there are 2 reasons for it. One is that they're completely bought out. The other is that now, because increasingly so, they think that the media is shifting towards YouTube, the subscriber base, they are going to placate them. So they are not going to annoy their subscriber base. And we've seen it time and again in matters of religion, when dire threats have been given to people just for speaking out against an atrocity. The YouTubers, so-called YouTubers who call others Godi media, keep complete silence. They don't want to annoy their subscriber base because the subscribers will leave them en masse. We've seen this time and again. But Rahul, away from the media, we have to talk about the political party and the opposition, because the media only has so much say in making sure how the proceedings of the nation go. It is the opposition. And when the opposition says there is undeclared emergency, I want to ask just one question. When the opposition had the chance to catch BJP by the scruff of its neck and drag it onto the streets, demanding resignation, when they amended the FCRA Act, thereby rendering the conviction of the High Court against BJP toothless, what did the opposition do? The opposition sided with the BJP. The opposition amended the FCRA Act. So these are the same people who are crying emergency. They are helping in this.
Well, viewers, the hypocrisy melts away when there are searing hard facts. I'll take a short break. We'll be right back. Don't go away. Viewers, you're watching the hard facts from the CNN News 18 Federal Bank Prime Time studio. Viewers, in the end, the India bloc has been forced to accept its also-ran status, which is just as well. Harboring delusions of grandeur can foster the disease of conceit, and the opposition's decision to contest the Speaker's post, it could be argued, was its refusal to accept the fact that they haven't been elected to serve. If the opposition had been guilty of overlooking this message in the mandate, the reality of electoral politics, which is exclusively founded on the supremacy of numbers, has proven to be a bit too hard to ignore. The fourth ever attempt to foist upon the nation a contest for the Speaker's post has ended today in a whimper, with the opposition not even forcing a proper vote. The NDA's pick, Om Birla, returns as Speaker. He's one of the very few who has returned after being incumbent for 5 years. And even before the ink could dry on the paper declaring him elected, he presided over a resolution critical of the emergency that was imposed upon the country in 1975 by then Prime Minister Indira Gandhi. Listen in, viewers.
ये सदन 1975 में देश में आपातकाल इमरजेंसी लगाने के निर्णय की कड़े शब्दों में निंदा करता है। इसके साथ ही हम उन सभी लोगों की संकल्प शक्ति की सराहना करते हैं जिन्होंने इमरजेंसी का पुनर्जोर विरोध किया, अभूतपूर्व संघर्ष किया और भारत के लोकतंत्र की रक्षा का दायित्व निभाया। भारत के इतिहास में 25 जून 1975 के उस दिन को हम हमेशा काले अध्याय के रूप में जाना जाएगा।
Well, the Speaker's address triggered a bitter war of words. You could hear the commotion in Parliament, but it also spilled outside of Parliament. And of course, the Congress and the BJP have been having a go at each other. The former accused the Speaker of playing a partisan role. In fact, it was Rahul Gandhi who made that allegation. The Prime Minister, on the other hand, hailed the Speaker for reminding the nation, particularly the youth, about what really happens when the head of the executive turns into a dictator. Listen in, viewers.
A lot of water has flown in the Ganga since 1975. Mrs. Indira Gandhi has expressed regret over it, and she was defeated in an election in 1977 and won an election in 1980 to come back as Prime Minister. But the BJP must stop driving a car only by looking at the rear view mirror. They must have a forward-looking agenda.
आज जो प्रस्ताव आया है सरकार की तरफ से, मैं उसकी निंदा करता हूँ, भर्त्सना करता हूँ इस बात के लिए कि एक तरफ तो आप सहयोग की अपील की बात करते हो, मिलजुल कर सदन चलाने की बात करते हो और पहले दिन आग लगाते हो। मैं सिर्फ ये कहूँगा, जो कुछ भी आज हुआ है वो सरकार का एक सोचा समझा एजेंडा है कि सदन न चलने पाए। मैं ये जरूर कहूँगा कि आज जो अघोषित इमरजेंसी है, ये संविधान में कहीं इसका जिक्र नहीं है।
Well, the Prime Minister, viewers, tweeted and said that he was proud of the Speaker for having actually raised this issue. Now, if the idea was to deflate the Congress party's Save the Samvidhan campaign, then it had perhaps the desired impact. Presented with its own record of undermining the Constitution, the Congress had nowhere to hide, and worse, found itself isolated as its closest India bloc allies, the Samajwadi Party, the TMC, the DMK, refused to back its criticism of the emergency resolution that was moved in the House at the instance of the Speaker. Yes, viewers, the SP and DMK support emergency resolution. SP, DMK and TMC didn't join in the Congress's protest. The Congress's disdain for democracy didn't only reveal itself during the emergency, viewers, as we all know. The party has undermined the spirit, if not the letter, of the Constitution on a number of occasions. Let me run you through some of those occasions, viewers, as they stand out. The first Constitution Amendment Bill, 1951. At that time, Mr. Nehru was the head really of an interim government, not an elected government. And that watered down free speech, viewers, the provisions of free speech, as you know. Article 35A, 1954, introduced in the Constitution via presidential order, provisions added as appendix, not amendment. Nehru government did not present it to Parliament even, viewers. Can you believe that? Emergency in 1975, when Prime Minister Indira Gandhi clamped a national emergency, opposition leaders were arrested, jailed. Elections were postponed, anti-government protests broke out, and those protesters were crushed. The press was censored. Many journalists and politicians and protesters were jailed. Some laws were even rewritten to suit the government. Then there have been a number of incidents of president's rule and state government dismissals using Article 356, which allowed president's rule. Congress used it 90 times to dismiss state government's viewers. The Shah Bano judgment of 85. The Supreme Court ordered Shah Bano's ex-husband to pay maintenance under Section 125 of the CRPC. Rajiv Gandhi-led government passed the Muslim Women Protection of Divorce Rights Act, nullifying the Supreme Court order. Viewers, there have been many other instances. There have been summary jailings of protesters. At one go, 9,000 viewers under the UPA. Let's open this up. And that too under sedition, viewers, which today the Congress party has an anathema to. So the fundamental question is this Save Samvidhan proclamation, this endeavor, this campaign of the Congress been punctured when you hold up to the Congress its own record? And I want to begin first with the Congress leader here, Mr. Bansal. Mr. Bansal, look, even your own allies today didn't stand up for you when you attacked the Speaker for moving this resolution, which is quite timely since the debate is so focused on constitutionalism, isn't it?
Now, let me just say that as far as I think in all fairness, the debate should have started on a very fair note. And that particularly coming from the Speaker, who's assumed and presumed to be non-partisan. The way he moved out this resolution reflected the mindset of the Speaker, that how, the established precedents are being set aside. So this is highly, and in fact, it was the first day of Parliament. It should have started on a friendly note. It should have started in the vote where there would have been, sort of a consensus needs to be emerged in times to come, and this is what participation of democracy, opposition's participation is considered. It could have, the way it started, I think it was highly, it speaks the mindset, it's belittling, the traditions of Parliament, and as far as our allies notwithstanding, everybody, we have a democracy. On broader issues, we participate, we develop a consensus. So to say that our allies didn't stand up or they didn't join us in United, I don't think that's very significant.
Okay, if consensus is really what you're looking for, then Rahul Gandhi did two things which didn't signal that. And yes, I want to bring in the former Rajya Sabha member of Parliament also with us, Mr. Pawan Verma. Mr. Verma, look, Rahul Gandhi could have also started the ball rolling by saying, okay, look, we are not going to contest the Speaker's post. We're not going to put up any candidate, number one. Number two, he could have also informed his own allies, talking about consensus, when he actually picked Mr. Suresh to be the candidate from the India bloc side. We all know that they weren't taken into consideration, their opinions.
I would like to...
No, one second, sir. Let's be peaceable. Yes, Mr. Verma.
Thank you, Rahul. I'm a little bemused that the Constitution has suddenly become the most revered documents in the hands of all those who are elected representatives, be it in the opposition or on the ruling benches. The Constitution is a piece of paper. Unless you actually infuse it with the spirit of democracy, which is its intent and basic structure. Now, it's absolutely right to say that the Congress has not had a clean record in terms of preserving the spirit of democracy. We know that during the decades of Congress rule, the irony was that the provisions of the Constitution itself were used to subvert some of the fundamentals of democracy, and for shortage of time I can only quote the misuse of Article 356. We are also aware, of course, of the emergency which was imposed in 75, which again was done under the provision of a constitution. However, I think there is a limit to which you can keep resurrecting the past as a shield to how the aberrations continue in the present under different governments. We must face the truth. Yes, the session could have begun by more consultation in the opposition. But it is equally true that the BJP could have extended a branch of cooperation by saying, the speaker will be from our party, the deputy speaker will be from the largest opposition party, for which there are many precedents. Thirdly, let us be honest with ourselves. Perhaps there has not been a formal emergency declared, but in the last 10 years, we have seen the Constitution being misused, Rahul, and please, as a fair journalist, bear me out. The Constitution means freedom of speech and expression and the right to dissent. Please ask your research team to check how many people have been arrested under the draconian UAPA for having been critical of Prime Minister Modi and Mr. Yogi Adityanath. Please ask yourself how many governments where the ruling party was in a minority have been toppled through money power and this great development of resort politics. Please ask yourself how the PMLA has been so strengthened under this rule that today the presumption of innocence has been reversed, which is the fundamental aspect of the Constitution. Please ask yourself, when you quote the ordinance on the Shahbano judgment, what happened to the Supreme Court's judgment on the powers of the Delhi government, which were overruled by an ordinance by the same government which today is accusing the Congress? The citizen is entitled to ask that if these freedoms were important then and were violated, has there been no violation of these freedoms now? What about the independence of institutions? Has there been vendetta politics against opposition parties by the misuse of institutions which are meant to be independent and autonomous? Has the Election Commission of India become toothless or not? And for what reasons? These are questions that we need to ask. Were bills properly debated? Or were they pushed through by the brute majority of the ruling party? So while I do not condone for a moment the wrongs that were initiated during the Congress party rule, I must acknowledge, to be fair, that these aberrations have continued in a different garb even today, and perhaps the BJP is facing the consequences of a reduced majority precisely because of that.
Okay, so you're saying they brought it upon themselves. Okay, one second. Dr. Ranganathan, yes, would you like to respond? And after that, the BJP national spokesperson. I can't hear you, Dr. Ranganathan. I think you might be on mute. Yes.
Can you hear me now?
I can.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Now, I was just saying it's such a joy to be on the same panel as Pawanji and Bansalji and Mr. Anthony. So it's a great joy, and I think all three of them should be in the Rajya Sabha. But I want to say something that's...
elected from Ranganathan. Let me just introduce myself. I don't intend going to Rajya Sabha. I am a grassroots worker who works,
Well, good for you, sir. Good for you. Good for you. Nothing wrong in being elected to the Rajya Sabha. You don't become automatically disconnected from your roots. Pawanji will have a separate debate with you on that. at another
And
time.
not-
Yes, Dr. Ranganath.
Not only that, we had a Prime Minister for 10 years who was a member of Rajya Sabha. So,
That's
Bansalji, you will be in exalted company. No,
No,
but look,
I'm not
Okay,
being
okay.
critical
It's
of
not.
that.
He was just being
was on
a
a light
little.
This is not the subject.
Yeah, it's not the subject. Yeah.
thank you. No, look, what are the facts, Rahul? The facts are that the Congress is behaving like a playground bully. But this was to be expected, given that they have an arrested adolescent at the helm of affairs and dynasty doormats as male au pairs to rock his cradle. And what is this childish act of brandishing the constitution book? Kya kar rahe ho yaar? Who are you trying to fool? That's why I call them children of Goebbels, because it was Goebbels who said the first rule of propaganda is to accuse the other of what you're guilty of. They whitewash their own crimes with the help of their media stooges. They whitewash religious fundamentalism and fanaticism if the religion is not Hinduism. They whitewash application of draconian laws when it suits them. They peddle fraudulent reports that claim India is no longer a democracy. They say that we speak truth to power. But for them, only Modi is in power. Didi is not. Bhagwant Mann is not. Everyone else who is not BJP government or at the helm of affairs a BJP government in a state is not. Look, no one has damaged our institutions, Rahul, and our constitution more than the Congress. Let us begin from his great-grandfather who dismissed duly elected governments at will, brought in the draconian First Amendment to curb free speech, arrested poets, jailed editors, banned books, censored films, outlawed even the humble harmonium for crying out loud. To his grandmother, who amended the constitution at will and proclaimed the emergency. To his father, who deployed commandos to raid newspaper offices throughout Rushdie's satanic verses. To finally his mother, under whose remote control ran a government that charged cartoonists with sedition. 8,500 activists, Rahul, were charged with sedition in a single day under the UPA. And the Home Minister Chidambaram called them quote-unquote anti-nationals. There exist as many as 295 documented instances of brutal trampling of democracy and freedom of expression under the Congress. But 87 of those occurred in the last 15 years when Rahul was powerful enough to have stopped these violations. The Congress government in Chhattisgarh arrested a man for complaining against power cuts and charged him with sedition. People might not know the damage the Congress did to other institutions. Let me take these two examples. Just a minute. Did you know the Congress blocked appointment of judges to the Supreme Court if they were in any way associated with the ideology of the RSS, or even so much as attended the funeral of an RSS person, as Justice Chandurkar did of Golwarkar? This is from the book Supreme Whispers by Chandrachud. Let me not even go into how many Supreme Court verdicts did the Congress overturn. The Shah Bano verdict, the bank nationalization verdict, the Privy Purse verdict. Now finally 30 seconds to the Election Commission itself. People are talking about damaging the institution. Congress acolyte and Sanjay Gandhi's man Friday, Naveen Chawla, played a ruthless pass during the emergency. In fact, letting loose a reign of terror. So much so he was indicted by the Shah Commission for his crimes. But what happened as soon as the Congress came to power? He was made the chief election commissioner just before the general election. And Rahul brandishes the constitution even as Modi has never unilaterally overturned an SC verdict like Rajiv, never abused Article 356 like Indira, never passed a press objectionable act like Nehru. Honestly, breathing sense into Rahul Gandhi is like giving CPR to a dodo.
Well, Mr. Verma, let me just quickly bring you in before I bring in the Bharatiya Janata Party's national spokesperson. A quick response, actually.
My quick response is that Anand is as always eloquent, but I must say he's a good friend of mine. He's extremely good in chronologically presenting the weaknesses of the Congress, which I don't disagree with. We were in the evolution of democracy, and yes, the Congress misused the Constitution. I am saying to you that the ruling party for the last 10 years has also played with the Constitution or its spirit, and that is manifest in many of its actions.
Okay, so that's the point you're making. You're saying that you can't.
Power.
Okay, so you're saying there can't be whataboutery. Is that what you're saying?
Okay. Everybody needs to introspect.
Just 5 seconds.
Yeah, okay.
Everybody
introspect
needs to
is the word that. Okay, yes, okay.
The common citizen suffers.
Yeah, 10 seconds, Dr. Ranganathan. I want to bring in Anil Anthony. He needs to step in here now.
Yes, but I am absolutely not in disagreement with Pavanji. I agree with him, and I've said this so many times. We have been a danger to democracy ever since we became a democracy. Is Pavanji going to say that remove the First Amendment to the Constitution? I am for removing it. We have laws that support draconian stamping of freedom of speech and expression.
Okay.
That's the problem.
Okay. Let me bring in Mr. Anthony, and then I want closing remarks from everyone else. Mr. Anthony, look, yes, the Congress has a record that it needs to sort of perhaps be sheepish about, to put it politely. But the BJP, according to some of our panelists, cannot really preach, because you yourself have feet of clay when it comes to upholding the democratic spirit, really, of the Constitution. How do you respond to that charge, Mr. Anthony?
Thank you, Rahul. It's a privilege to be in your show, and thank you for inviting me over. I've been listening to all my esteemed panelists, and one thing, let me first of all make it very clear. There is a huge difference between any perception that some of our political opponents have on our manner of functioning and the actual emergency and the destruction of democracy that has happened during the Congress rule and many of the current India Alliance partners in their own states at this moment. We all know what happened during the 70s, the emergency. Today is the 49th anniversary, exactly 49 years back, those incidents happened. But now let us even come to the current times, what is happening right now. Ours is a government that is there for the last 10 years, and the people of this country once again have chosen our Prime Minister for the third straight time. It is only the second time in India's history that a Prime Minister is coming back for the third time. And in the last 10 years, despite having full majority, despite having more than 350 seats as a coalition last time, 300 plus seats as a coalition last time, and the first time, we have always governed keeping constitutional rules and procedures in our sight. Just compare it with what the Congress is doing right now. The party is very diminished from its peak. Right now it has 99 seats. The party is governing 3 states. We are governing 18 plus seats as a coalition. But in those 3 states itself, just see what they are doing, where just last week there was an incident where a social media influencer, there was an attempt to arrest him from UP, where the Karnataka police had gone to UP to arrest somebody. Just last month there was an attempt to arrest somebody who is again a dissenter from Goa, where again the Karnataka police and had gone to arrest somebody who is a dissenter of the Congress from another state. So a party which is such diminished, it is still working in the same mindset of the 70s emergency Congress, where you only had 2 or 3 states, but the state police themselves is acting like the old Stasi or the SS guards, where you are going to other states and arresting people without a warrant because you are criticizing the leadership of the Congress or you are criticizing Congress policy in the states. While we as a party, like, despite having this kind of numbers, we are following constitutional procedures.
No, on the specific, let me ask you, on the specific charges that have been raised by Mr. Verma, that the PMLA has been strengthened in a manner that doesn't represent in any more the spirit of the Constitution. Number one, the ordinance that was brought in, you have been toppling governments through money, power, resort politics, so on and so forth. How do you respond to all of that?
See, again, let us look at the actualities. Like in the 70s, 80s, 90s, how many, the Congress party, how many governments did it actually arbitrarily dismiss by Mrs. Indira Gandhi, Mr. Rajiv Gandhi? When they were the Prime Minister, how many governments did they actually dismiss? And how we haven't done it. Right now there are law and order issues in multiple places, but we are still working with the governors, we are working with the law and order apparatus. There are multiple issues, but we haven't done that anywhere. Then PMLA, you talk about PMLA, the PMLA was bought by the first time.
Governors, Pawan Verma says governors are being misused. Yeah. Governor's office has been politicized.
See, let me finish.
Okay, sure.
Yes. So PMLA was a law which was actually bought by the UPA government during the UPA's time. We strengthened it because our Prime Minister, the first day himself, had made it very clear that we have zero tolerance to corruption. Then you talk about
and
UAPA.
It has withstood the test of judicial scrutiny. Supreme Court looked at its provisions.
And UAPA again, like these are all.
Okay.
And is currently under review.
Let us not look into laws that are made for. See, there are laws which are meant to prevent corruption, meant for our national security purposes, but everything which we are doing it using constitutional provisions. It is not done using arbitrary manner like how the Congress used to do. And it is like right now, a lot of people, there are so many YouTube channels, there are so many journalists, etc., who are against the Bharatiya Janata Party, against our Prime Minister, who are sitting and abusing him every single day. But nobody has been, let's say, we are not arresting any of them. But at the same time, the Congress, with their diminished stage, they are still working where they are still going after people who are against them.
Okay,
it is still working in the emergency mindset.
This becomes,
so one thing,
to sort of reduce it to 3 or 4 colloquial letters, a tu-tu-me-me debate at the end of the day, doesn't it, viewers? It's a difficult one. I'll leave it at this, viewers.
Yeah, it's just like maybe like $100 to civilly or something like that, up to the
Yeah.
CNN News 18 and Federal Bank Primetime Studio.
Namaste, Jai Hind and welcome to this edition of The Right Stand. I am Anand Narasimhan. RBI Governor Shaktikanta Das has highlighted that Bharat is at a threshold of a major structural shift in its growth trajectory. The governor added that Bharat is moving ahead towards 8% GDP growth in a sustained manner, adding that the average growth Bharat recorded in the last 3 years is 8.3%. Meanwhile, Prime Minister's Economic Advisory Council member Sanjeev Sanyal has said that Modi 3.0 will show absolute policy continuity. He said that there was a huge change on how Bharat was being viewed by the world. He mentioned that India was earlier seen as a peripheral emerging market where people could patronizingly speak about Bharat's development, poverty removal and so on, whereas now Bharat is seen as integral to the world economy. Banking and information technology stocks have also taken market indices to fresh peaks on a Tuesday on the backdrop of a relatively quiet period over the past week, marked by investors sitting on the fence awaiting for some sort of stimulus, especially from the upcoming union budget. Meanwhile, following a 90